Grab your drinks and have a seat. It's time for serial killers.
Hello.
Yellow.
We're here.
That we are.
If you don't know who we are, I'm T,
And I'm Jay.
and we are here to talk to you about serial killers. That was better. That was
Yeah, we're
better.
getting there. I got nervous.
If you're new here, we talk about serial killers. So if you didn't think that you were signing up to listen to serial killers, just go ahead and shut that thing off. However,
Turn it off.
if you're at all interested in true crime or serial killers, stick with us. We kind of have some fun sometimes on this show.
Yeah.
It's not ever fun actually to talk about serial killers, but it's kind of fun. And then you get to maybe hear me get a little unhinged. You might hear Jay put in some little shitty ass remarks, or I might say something that's not very nice to him because he's bothering me.
And a little unhinged.
Oh, I get heat. I'm not unhinged. This one, I'm not. This episode, I'm not unhinged about. So this week, before we get into anything too crazy serial killer like, it's been all over my TikTok about this Netflix series documentary about, it's called like The Crash or something, and it's about a girl who got in a car accident, killed her boyfriend and friend at the time, and she is in jail for murder. And a lot of people are saying after watching this that she's absolutely a murderer. Now, I have not watched this documentary yet. I'm going to. I wanted to take a moment right now to say something because I've started to realize there's a trend.
Say it.
There's
Preach.
a trend going on in this world, and I think it needs to be said. Documentaries are really good sources of information. But remember, a documentary always is biased, one way or the other. The person
Facts.
who makes the documentary has a message they are trying to put out, one way or the other. For every documentary I've ever seen about how vegan life and plant-based and whole food is the best lifestyle, I can find you a documentary or research that says it's not. So you have to remember when you see these documentaries that are true crime documentaries, which I do watch. A lot of the times I watch them while I'm doing my research, but I do not take a documentary and then just spill to you what I saw in the documentary. What I do is I take the documentary, watch it. I then go to my research, and I typically research between anywhere from 8 to 10 resources at a time. And I pick out the things that are the same in all of them. That to me is more truthful than to just say, oh, this documentary said this, so it must be true. And I'm only saying this because twice now, one on this show and one on my Crime Bitches podcast, I have talked about how I watched a documentary. Twice now, I have had people contact me and say, well, that's not actually how it happened. You got your facts wrong. To which then I respond with, well, please enlighten me and tell me what I got wrong so I can fix it. Because I will say things about documentaries that I saw, and it's crazy to me how many people are like, well, I know that person, or I was in that town. And that is not that, the way that Netflix did the documentary is not even close to how it happened. And it's because the people who are directing it, at the end of the day, they're there to make money.
It's like what they say. There's 3 sides to every story. There's 3 sides to every document, right?
There is.
There's their side, the opposing side, and then the reality.
Right. And so I need it to be well known. And again, this doesn't actually have to do with the Crash documentary because I haven't watched it. But I'm talking like I watched a documentary that was on Netflix. And it was about this guy who went to jail. He accidentally killed his girlfriend. I did it on Crime Bitches. And I read an article after watching the documentary about how he himself and because he got married while he was in jail, and his wife were extremely disappointed in the way that they painted him because they took out a lot of the information, because he'd sit and do interviews with them and they would cut and edit and paste it together to say things that he says, I never said that, or they took it out of context to make me almost look worse than I was. And he said, like, in certain areas, they tried to make it seem like I wasn't remorseful. And he's like, I've been nothing but remorseful. So you have to realize that there's always a point to the documentary. It's not so that we can just inform. Because if you were just going to inform, you would be unbiased. You would show both sides and you would not taint either side. I have yet to see, and I will be 100% honest, I have yet to see a documentary where I don't walk away from it and go, oh yeah, and everybody I know watches that same documentary and walks away with the same view. When everybody walks away with the same view, that means that they had a message and it got through to you. The one that always sticks out to me is, I think it was called Fish or Big Fish. And it was about Shamu and it was about SeaWorld. And I watched it. And I was appalled. I left that show like, fuck SeaWorld. Them bitches can close down. Like, I hated SeaWorld. And to be honest, I still don't like SeaWorld. But the amount of anger I had towards SeaWorld, and then I remember talking to some of my family members who live in California or have lived in California near SeaWorld. And I had said, like, I can't even believe that people would support SeaWorld because they're so, like, they keep these creatures, you know, that are supposed to be when they're in the wild, they live in groups and blah, 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 blah. And I also was informed in that moment is that, yep, I can understand where you're coming from. But did you know that SeaWorld was originally started to study sea life? And it was not to harm them. It was to study sea life and to find out things. And do you know that a lot of things that we know about sea life today is due to the study facilities that are attached to SeaWorld? Now, would I have known that? No, because in the documentary, all they talked about was how terrible SeaWorld was. They didn't tell you the other side of, hey, they had good intentions when they started and it's spiraled out of control. They didn't tell you any of that because all they did was they had an agenda, and the agenda was to make everybody who watched that movie walk away and hate SeaWorld.
Yep.
So I feel like this has to be said because I love documentaries. I am a documentary whore. But I will never take a documentary at face value and say, well, this is a fact because it was in a documentary. No, because documentaries are made for money. They are made for money, to make money, and to push out a message of some sort. So keep that in mind when you listen to people like myself. I'm a podcaster who watches documentaries and does my research. And you know what? What I say isn't always true because I don't get all the truth either. And that's the point that I'm trying to make, I guess, is that documentaries are literally like, they're just a TV version of a podcast. It's somebody who wants to get a message out there. And sometimes they might bend or wiggle the truth to make you agree with them.
And there definitely are some podcasts like that. And then there's some podcasts that are just repeating what they see.
Listen, for us, all we do is repeat. I repeat information. I'm a storyteller. I'm a researcher. So I do a lot of research. I put together all the things that are very common. And if I find things that are like one-offs, I'll even tell you, like in one of the research papers, I saw this. I'm just repeating it to you. And I never, ever have had any issues with somebody saying, hey, that's not correct. I'll correct it because I'm just here to tell stories because I like to talk about it. I like to talk about true crime. So I don't want to investigate. I'm not an investigative podcaster or journalist. I'm just a storyteller. But my point is that I just am seeing a lot of people who have a lot of stuff to say after watching this documentary. And I'm like, holy shit, like everybody keeps saying, by the way, all the same thing. They all are saying she's a murderer. She did it on purpose. There's no, and again, I haven't seen her. I have not seen the documentary, but my point is that maybe she is a murderer. Maybe she did do it on purpose, but just because the documentary said she did, you get it. Do you understand how much money Netflix is making off of everybody right now? Because it became a huge thing. And the fact that everybody's walking away with the same exact opinion and the same exact key points too. Well, she never touched the brakes. She never let go. Her foot was on the pedal. The fact that you all are saying the same exact shit, that is right there. What you should realize is that's what they want you to believe in any documentary. Like I said, I've never seen a documentary where it's not one-sided. Even when they claim to not be one-sided, they always have a message. So Please keep that in mind. Keep that in mind when you're listening to me. Do you want to know? I'm going to tell you up front right now because we're about ready to talk about a serial killer. Do you want to know what the message is that I'm trying to put out with every single episode?
There was a killer out there and this was what he did.
I'm trying to put out there that serial killers are fascinating beings because we don't understand how they work. We don't know how to stop them, and they're intriguing as hell, but also disgusting as fuck. That's what I'm trying to put out there. And I also share with you their background because it's like, well, I'll never excuse away a serial killer. I'll never say that, oh, their life was terrible, so therefore they're a killer. But I will tell you, holy shit, they had a really fucked up childhood. No wonder why they didn't have a chance. That's all. I'm just trying to share with you the information that I like to research so I don't look like a weirdo.
So if you guys remember a few minutes ago in this podcast where T said, I'm not going to get worked up. Well,
I'm not getting worked up.
I'm just saying.
I'm not. I just felt like I need to do a PSA on the documentary thing because it's crazy to me the amount of people that take documentaries as fact, and it's like they're not fact. They're literally made for entertainment purposes and money and to push out an agenda of some sort. It doesn't matter which documentary you're watching. All of them have a message or an agenda they're trying to put out, and in the world that we live in, you manipulate it to be in your favor. Anyways, I don't know why I chose to do that. I've been thinking about this all day today, and I don't know why I chose now to do it, but I guess I should just let y'all know that I do watch documentaries, but I will never take a documentary as fact.
Yeah.
I mean, I did when I was younger, obviously. Now I take the documentary and go, oh, that was really interesting. Let me research it. And then I find a lot of holes in the documentary.
Well, it's not even just documentaries, it's movies too. You
oh my God. Yes, the Monster series on Netflix is the worst because they play it off like it's fucking real. And it's like the Ed Gein story is just, after watching that, it's like they have these other ones. They have one that the next one they're doing is Lizzie Borden. And I so want to watch it, but I'm also really not wanting to watch it because I know the Lizzie Borden story. We just did it not too long ago on Crime Bitches. And so it's like, I'm going to watch it because I know it. But like, they did two other ones. They did Jeffrey Dahmer and they did the Menendez brothers. And I refuse to watch them until I've done full research because the amount of people that I've seen that say, oh my God, the Ed Gein story. Oh, and a lot of people, oh my God, he was so incredibly messed up. I felt so bad for him. No, the fuck you didn't, because you didn't get the right story. Right. You didn't get the right story. That's not Ed Gein. Mm-hmm. That's the TV version of Ed Gein. That is the fake ass version of Ed Gein. And that is not even close to being how he really was. And his voice, not even close. Not even close. There is actually recorded interviews of him. One.
Yeah. And
he does not sound like that. And I don't hate, what's his name? Charlie. What's his name? The guy who plays
Charlie
him.
Chaplin.
I don't care that he chose that voice because that, he made the character his own. But the fact that because they claim the Monster series is like the true story of, it's not the fucking true story of.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that the other ones are gonna not be as close as we get. Don't get me started. Jay and I and Sierra from Crime Bitches, we have a plan to potentially do a podcast where we just talk about no scripts, no nothing, no research. And we literally just talk about the movies and the documentaries or movies out there that are created off of true crime and ones that we have researched ourselves and just have some bullshit sessions where we can bitch or give kudos if it's a really good version. I have yet to find a really good.
Right.
Everything I've watched, I'm like, well, I don't think that's really that close. I think the closest I've ever seen to a good one is the movie like Escape from Alcatraz from like the 1940s or whatever. That was pretty close to the actual. I have to rewatch it, but I think it was pretty close to the actual Escape.
I mean, there was the other one with the guy.
No, not.
French guy?
I know, no, not. That's what I'm saying. So we do have a bunch of movies we could do, and we have talked about doing it. It's just trying to get us all together. And with this move, it's gonna happen because I feel like I need to be able to just relax and bitch my ass off about some of these shits because, oh my God. Anyways, I've taken up far too much time in the beginning of this thing. So let's get into what we're actually here to talk about. But before that, I guess we should talk about what we're drinking. Jay, what are you drinking?
I've got my French press coffee with my Chobani creamer.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We got a French press. Yes, we still do Nespresso. We do our Nespresso first. And then our second cup of coffee of the day is a French press.
We're just mixing it up.
We're
trying different things.
We are. And I'm doing my French press with 1 stevia and coconut cream creamer.
Well, now.
And honestly, the blend that we are using for our French, the blend, is Donut Shop, and I'm not a fan.
No,
I'm not a fan.
It needs to be stronger.
It needs to be stronger. I think I'm going to go with like Sumatra or something next time because I'm not. Yeah. This one's kind of boring. Anyways,
it's not as full body as they claimed
it's not. Be. It's really kind of watery, and I put a lot of coffee grounds in there. It's just not. It's not doing the trick. It has a weird aftertaste too. I'm not a fan. But we are not here to talk about coffee. I mean, we are.
Yeah.
We are here to talk about coffee.
But let's get into what the people are here for now that they've sat through all of this.
All my complaining. Okay. So what we are actually here to talk about is a man, and his name is Adolf Seefeldt.
Ooh,
I know you thought I was going to say Hitler. As a matter of fact, when I told our son that, he said, Hitler? I said, no. And he goes, he could technically be a serial killer. Well, yeah, maybe. He probably could be. You're right. Now, his nickname is Uncle Tick Tock. Not like dance your ass off TikTok.
It was before TikTok.
Like Tick Tock.
Like a clock.
Yes, like a clock. He has 12 or more victims. His murder dates are 1908, 1933 to 1935. His location is Germany. And his method of murder is poison. And a characteristic is he's a pedophile.
Which is interesting for him to be poisoned.
You'll find out why. You'll find out. Because I thought the same thing. And then afterwards I was like, no, I kind of get it. Okay. So Adolf was born March 6th, 1870 in Potsdam, Germany. He was the 7th child and the youngest in his family. And honestly, not very much is known about his life. I did see some claims that his life was rough, but not all of them. I think I did eight articles, and I think only one. So I'm going to be honest, I don't know, but one of them did say that he had a rough life and that his father was an alcoholic and his mother was known to have multiple love affairs. Again, one of the 8 articles said that, but I needed to give you something because we know literally nothing about his life until a very small snippet at the age of 12. So at the age of 12, he is abused by 2 men. Now, it never specified the type of abuse, but based off of his crimes and his life, I am going to assume that it is sexual abuse. Because I don't even know why 2 men would abuse a child otherwise. I don't think they're just beating him up.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Adolf eventually, as he gets older, he becomes a locksmith. So he apprenticed to be a locksmith and sat with that career for actually a pretty short time. Because then in 1890, he moves to Lübeck, Germany, and he meets a woman named Katharina. And they go on to be married. However, their marriage, it actually lasts for a while, but in 1910, she ends up divorcing him, which is rare for the early 1900s. The women didn't normally initiate divorces, but she did. Now, the reason for their divorce, completely unknown. Again, he's like a mystery.
I was going to say, though, but it had to be something pretty serious because, like you said, women don't normally...
I have some suspicions.
Yeah.
I have some suspicions. Now, they do have a son, and his son actually eventually ends up being put into an insane asylum when he's 19 years old, and he was put into this insane asylum for moral crimes. So when I look into moral crimes, it's like pedophilia.
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
Yep.
So the fact that his son was doing it tells me pretty much everything I need to know about probably why they divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Because during his lifetime, Adolf is put to jail a lot of times, okay? But in 1895, so remember how I said they met in 1890 and got married?
Yep.
Okay, so in 1895, Adolf is put into jail for sexually molesting a boy. So I'm assuming that has something to do with why she divorced him in 1910.
I mean, I would say that's pretty...
Now, during this...
Wait, hold on. That's pretty accurate. You didn't let me... I said pretty, and you went, it's not pretty. It's pretty accurate.
Correct. Now, he was, during this time, after he was put into jail, he was referred to be put into a psychiatric ward shortly after his sentencing. So something was happening when he was in jail to where they're like, ooh, this guy's a little cray-cray. So they moved him from the jail into a psychiatric ward. This leads to a pattern for Adolf. He is jailed or put into psychiatric facilities multiple times throughout his adulthood. And yes, they were all because of child molestation. The fact that we are even having this conversation right now,
right?
I'm kind of like, but how many times? Like, how many times did he have to do this before we said, oh, lock him away forever?
Well, we know one time is
clearly
too many.
Not. Now, there was one time in particular that he had been put away, but he had been sent to a home for the mentally disturbed after this child molestation charge. And he stays in this home for 2 years. I feel like 2 years is just not long enough, but whatever. He's there for 2 years. And the entire time that he's in this home, he does not speak one word to anybody there for 2 years. He does not speak at all to anybody for 2 years.
That's crazy.
He eventually does move on to be a watchmaker in his life.
Tick Tock.
Yes. And this is actually how he got his nickname Uncle Tick Tock, because he was a watchmaker. He became a traveling watchmaker. And so he would go around to different areas and fix their clocks and stuff like that. Now in 1908, Adolf is arrested and tried for the murder of a young boy. However, due to the lack of evidence, he's actually never convicted of this murder.
Of course not.
Now, from the 1920s to the 1930s, Adolf travels to different towns and villages in North Germany. He would make himself a part of the community. He would meet people. He would repair broken clocks. And he was very popular with the children of these towns. Hence why they all started calling him Uncle Tick Tock. He had no permanent home, and he would spend his time living in the forest. Whatever village he's in, he would actually live in the forest. Not in a hut, not in a tent, out in the open. Just living his life out there, and then he'd travel into town and fix people's clocks and do other things. He was a man who wore a gray hat. He had a long black coat. And honestly, if you're listening to this on anything other than Apple Podcasts, the picture of the man, that's going to be Uncle Tick Tock. He really looks like an average person for back in the day. Not creepy. He's not really scary. He's just kind of like an older man. So that was one of the problems, is he was very popular with the children, and everybody kind of trusted him, especially because they were like, Uncle Tick Tock. And they're like, oh, what a great guy. And so people just trusted him to be around their kids. Now, while Adolf is suspected of killing 12 or more boys, he did not always kill his victims. One time, he was actually traveling and he kidnapped a boy, and he took the boy with him and kept him for 3 months. Obviously molesting him, those kind of things.
And 3 months is a long time.
And he ends up letting him go. So he did not always, which we should all know by now, that he did not always kill his victims, because he fucking went to jail multiple times.
Yep.
Now, when Adolf did kill his victims, he would use poison, or so they think. They think he would use poison. So from 1933 to 1935, Adolf would go on to kill multiple young boys. He would use the pine groves that he was living in these different towns to murder them. All of them except for one was found in these pine groves. Now, all of his victims were found wearing sailor suits. Now, when the children were found, each and every one of them had the appearance that they were sleeping. So they were dressed in sailor suits.
So they dressed them up, and then...
And they looked like they were sleeping.
What's it called? He would place them...
Well, they have theories. Nobody actually knows what happened. Because here's the thing. There were no signs of violence on the body. There were no signs of sexual abuse on the body of any of these boys that were found. Needless to say, the police were originally confused on what was happening to these boys, because they were like, what the hell? Because, by the way, they're not all in the same town. Okay, so each time a police officer would find a boy in the woods dead, he'd be dressed in a sailor suit, but looks like he's sleeping. And there's no signs of anything that would make you think otherwise.
That'd be creepy.
Totally creepy. So this is why they actually believe he had more victims, was because they actually think that there's a good chance that some of the boys that he murdered were misclassified as dying of natural causes or of the elements type thing.
Yeah, because they would think they were just asleep.
Right. Now, there have been a couple of theories as to what actually had happened. So one of the theories is that he would poison them with a chloroform type substance, and essentially he'd smother them to death. Another one is that he would put the boys into a hypnotic state using some sort of poison, and then sexually abuse them. Even though they couldn't find any signs of sexual abuse, it doesn't mean that something didn't happen. It just means he didn't sexually abuse them in certain ways.
Yeah.
Then they think that after he would sexually abuse them, that he would leave them in the woods in this hypnotic state to never wake up again. So their deaths would actually be caused by hypothermia. Not
but it's because they couldn't move or do anything.
Tell me that wouldn't fucking be scary.
But if you're asleep, you wouldn't know.
Well, yeah, but what if you're in a hypnotic state? You're not asleep.
Yeah, but you might not be
I know.
recalling,
All I
depending-
think of is
yeah.
if he did some sort of a poison that made them unable to move, but awake, like, I don't know, right?
Yeah, no good.
No. And then whether it was intentional or not, nobody actually knows. So they actually don't even know if he intentionally killed these boys or if it was one of those, he would put them in a hypnotic state, sexually abuse them, leave them, and then come back the next day to like do something and they'd be dead.
Yeah.
I personally don't think that is the case. I think he did it intentionally.
Neither do I. With how many? Maybe the first time,
right?
It wasn't intentional, but after that, it was like,
oh, I guess this works.
Yeah.
So Adolf's victims ranged in age, anywhere from 5 years old to 13 years old. Now, police are finding these children in the woods and they are unable to truly prove what happened to them. And they do deem a lot of them as death by frostbite. On their death certificates, it's death by frostbite. Now, they are unable to find any type of poison in their systems either. That's the other part. So they say that he poisoned them, but they were never able to find poison in these boys' bodies. It literally looked to the police as if these boys had been in the woods, fallen asleep, and did not wake up because they froze to death.
I mean, the only other thing I can think of is that he brought him out there and then just left him. And so they were trying to
But they look like they no, because they don't look like they were trying to. They look peaceful. Like their bodies are peacefully sleeping. It's really strange. So this also leads to the deaths not being followed up. Since they felt that the boys had fallen asleep in the woods and they died from the cold, they didn't think that they were looking necessarily for some type of person doing this because there was nothing that made them think that.
Which means he just keeps on going.
But also during this time, if you haven't caught on yet, this is the time during Nazi Germany. So Nazi Germany is in full effect during this time, which also is a part of this because it leads to them not having a nationwide police network. So because it's Nazi Germany, the police network does not exist nationally now. And there was nobody sharing cases or data with other cities or towns. They're not. So they're finding these boys and there's nobody sharing that they're finding these boys in other cities. So as the boys continue to die, it is not known at the time that there's others dying in other areas because there's nothing that they could even reference for that. Now, his known victims are on April 16th, 1933, Kurt Nurk. I'm sorry if I messed these up because these are German names. October 8th, 1933, Wolfgang Metzdorf. November 2nd, 1933, Ernst Tesdorf. November 12th, 1933, Alfred Pretorius. Pay attention to, this is the other part, pay attention to. He went from April 16th to October 8th with no other murders. But then October 8th to November 2nd to November 12th. To January 16th. So right there, April to October is a very big chunk of time. That why? Like you didn't murder anybody? I don't think so. That's why they think
12 or more. That's why they said 12 or more.
No,
right?
I know. I was trying to remember who I left off on. So I'll just re-say this one. November 12th, 1933, Alfred Pretorius. January 16th, 1934, Hans Korn. And again, January 16th, and now we jump to October 2nd. So you're telling me this man was murdering like every month and then all of a sudden he took a hiatus for 9 months? No, he didn't.
No.
Now, to be fair, he could have been in jail. I mean, he could have been, but I don't think he went to jail for 9 months. I'm pretty sure that his jail time that I was referencing to earlier, those were before he started doing the murders in the 30s. I'm talking like in the early 1900s, he was getting caught. Then he stopped getting caught and was doing this instead. So I just think that the boys were found and their deaths were thought to be natural causes, so they're not in as part of his victims. Then on October 2nd, 1934, Gunter Tieski. Then October 8th, 1934, Erwin Wisniewski. October 16th, 1934, Arthur Dill and Edgar Dietrich. But again, see, that's 3 people. That's 4 people in October alone. There's no way he took a 9-month hiatus. Then on February 23rd, 1935, Heinz Zimmermann. Then on March 22nd, 1935, Gustav Thomas. Now, here's the case with Gustav. His case was interesting because they took him and the medical examiner took a really good look at Gustav. And basically what he found is that there was microscopic bloodshot pressures that he could see, which would indicate strangulation, not frostbite. And so when they start looking into that, they're like, well, hold on. for Gustav. This boy might not have actually died of hypothermia. This boy might not have died of frostbite. It looks like he was actually strangled or something, but there's no bruising on his neck or anything. But that doesn't mean that I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that works because I don't know. So after Gustav's body is found, they actually investigate because he doesn't look like he just he does look like he peacefully died, but when they look closer, they realize, no, he didn't peacefully die. So witnesses, as they're talking to people, they remember seeing that there was this man, like an older man, who was hanging out with the boy during the day. Well, one of the constables that's on this case actually sits there and goes, well, hold on. I remember a case where an older man had actually tried to lure two boys into the woods. He failed at it, but the two boys told. And they basically said, like, this man came, whatever. I think the boys knew who he was because they knew immediately who the man was. They knew it was
Uncle
Adolf,
Tick Tock.
but I think the boys said, like, it's Uncle Tick Tock tried to get us to go into the woods with him, and we said no and ran away. And so the constable's like, no, I know who this man is. This is Adolf Seefeldt. So immediately the police are like, well, let's go look for him because we need to talk to him and see if he was the last one to see Gustav. 48 hours after starting to look for Alfred, they do find him and he is arrested. Now, through talking to him and looking through his notes, they discover that Alfred happened to be in the same areas as multiple boys who were found dead in the woods. Now, by January 1936, he is now charged officially and he has a trial. And it lasts about a month. And there are more than 150 witnesses who testified. I don't know if they testified for him, against him. I just know there were 150 people who testified in his thing. Now, to be fair, some of those could be child molestation victims. Some of them could be people who had seen him with the kids at some point. I don't know. One of the problems with his trial is that the evidence is circumstantial at best. He doesn't admit to any of the murders. The only thing they have against him is the fact that he has this notebook or these notes of where he's been going for his watchmaking job as a traveling watchmaker. And he happens to be in the same towns as where these boys were murdered. That's it. He never admits to it. He never admits to even knowing the boys. Nobody can really place him with the boys. Like, nobody has been able to look at the victims and go, oh yeah, I saw him with them. And so the outcome of this is that Adolf is found guilty.
Yeah, because they don't believe in coincidence.
And he is sentenced to death. Which, listen.
If you did it, you deserve it.
So on February 29th, 1936, Adolf files an appeal. It is denied. On May 23rd, 1936, Adolf Seefeldt is executed by guillotine.
Damn.
It's not funny. For those of you who are new here, I laugh in uncomfortable situations.
She laughs when it's awkward.
I'm laughing because the guillotine is so fucked up. And I just, like, you think about the 1930s and you don't think about the guillotine being used as, like, a way to kill somebody in the 30s. Like, you just don't think about that because we didn't have a guillotine in the United States in the 30s. We had the electric chair. So, like, you don't think about, like, chopping your head off. Like, that's just, like, I think of, like, the 1800s, like, 16, 17, 1800s. But, yeah, that's how it is. So that is actually the shorter story of Adolf Seefeldt. But I do have some shots.
I'm curious what those shots are.
So Adolf had a couple other nicknames. He wasn't just known as Uncle Tick Tock. He was also known as Uncle Addy, which I don't know what that means. It has to do with watchmaking, but I'm assuming it has to do with German language because I don't know. And he was also known as the Sandman, which is fucking sad because it makes sense.
Yeah, because he put people to
sleep. He put these boys to sleep and they never woke up again. Now, the poison that Adolf supposedly had used was a homemade poison, and he would literally use the plants from the wilderness that he was living in to concoct some sort of poison that would fucking do whatever to these boys.
See, that just sounds like I understand, but it's just like with him being convicted the way he was, and all they had was like, oh, you were in this town, the same town. And it's like, oh, he used the forest to make stuff. Like, can anybody remake the poison? It's not in anybody's system. There's just a lot of things that I'm just like,
Okay. Now, it is thought that the reason that he had not killed all of his victims was because originally he was sexually abusing kids for a very long time, but he always got caught. And so they actually think that he got tired of getting caught, and that's what turned him to murder. And basically they're saying that he would be a different type of serial killer because the kill wasn't what he wanted. The kill was to protect him.
Right.
Because he went to jail so many times. Again, once was too many times.
Yep.
But we lived in a different time. Now, investigators actually believe that his victims could be in the hundreds. That's how many victims. And I don't think they just mean murder. I don't know, but right. I think they mean just overall victims. So the Nazis, I said this is during Nazi Germany, okay? The Nazis actually used his specific coverage of his trial as propaganda. So they would use it to basically tell people that this is why you should be against homosexuals and vagrants, because of people like him. However, they didn't seem to criticize the fact that many of the boys found were never investigated by the police. So they made it very clear to be like, look, this is why we need to get rid of all the homosexuals and vagrants. But the fact that the police never did their fucking job, they didn't want to talk about that.
Oh, no.
Now they specifically
just tells you media hasn't changed in how many years?
You're so right. And that actually full circle takes me back into why documentaries should not be believed. I didn't even think about that. Anyways, they did specifically state, and I quote, because by the way, I want everybody to know that some of my information comes from an actual German article that I did have to have translated from that time.
Okay, so your quote is based off of a translation, so if it's wrong, we apologize.
I don't believe it's wrong.
Okay.
So they specifically stated the sentence. So they're talking about the sentence that he received of death. This sentence. Well, I don't know. I see because this is where it's fucked up. The sentence is for the entire world. The strongest justification for National Socialist legislation for the protection of race and people. So I don't think that's translated wrong because that's exactly what the Nazi people were, is they believed in one race and one people, and that excluded anybody that wasn't white and blonde, basically with blue eyes. So they basically, that was part of what they were pushing was, well, see, we should put everybody to death who doesn't fit what we think should, and they wanted everybody to follow the National Socialist legislation, which is what they were pushing. Now, it is estimated that that Adolf, prior to his conviction, had spent about 23 years behind bars for child molestation charges. 23 years. Yeah. And by the way, not 23 years for one. Multiple. 23 years, multiple multiples. Like one was a 2-year sentence. You know, that's what their thought process was. Now, in his notebook, remember the notebook that we talked about? So not only did they find that he had happened to be in the same places where these boys were murdered, but they also found that specific locations, only specific locations in his book, they would find this weird symbol like across the page from these locations. These symbols happened to coincide with every single city the boys had been murdered in. Only the boys had been murdered in.
Yeah.
So when they ask him about it, they're like, what's the symbol? He says nothing, because he doesn't talk about it. He won't tell them.
Sketchy.
Mm-hmm. So that's probably what really like the nail in his coffin, was the fact that he wouldn't explain away why he had basically highlighted the areas where kids were killed. I'll be honest with you, if I was on the jury, I'd find him guilty as well. Final shot. The executioner that was in charge of Adolf said that he had visited him earlier in the day prior to his guillotine beheading. And he said that it was really strange because when he was talking to Adolf seemed to be very eager to be beheaded. So
maybe he was just
I
done.
guess he got what he wanted, because it sounds like he was kind of like, cool, let me do my life. Like, whatever. I don't know. So anyways, that's the story of Adolf Seefeldt.
Old Uncle Tick Tock.
Uncle Tick Tock. Anyways, if you like the things that you hear, and if you like listening to serial killers, if you like listening to myself and Jay have conversations and talk and rant and do all the things, make sure you're following us. And if you are following us, share us. with anybody that you think might also like to listen to us, because there can never be enough listeners for us, even though we have way more than I think I ever would have dreamt of. So I appreciate the fact that y'all keep coming back.
It's been fun.
It's really great. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else I have to say, really, other than thank you so much for listening to us tell you this story about Adolf Seefeldt, the man also known as Uncle Tick Tock, and not the dancing one.
Yup.
Until next week, goodbye.
Goodbye. Gotcha. Bye-bye.
Remember to lock your doors and bar your windows. Until next time.